بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري وأحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وفقهنا إذا جهلنا وزدنا علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا يا كريم اللهم انفعنا بالقرآن العظيم واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة يا أرحم الراحمين وبعد. In the last session, Nafahat Ramadaniya, we began speaking about etiquettes for a person when reciting the Quran. The first thing that we mentioned was al-ikhlas, the sincerity. The second of them, to be in a state of purification, al-wudu. The third of them, whenever reciting Quran, to use a miswak beforehand. فإنها طرق القرآن, because as the Prophet said, your mouth are pathways for the Quran. And the fourth is for a person to face the Qibla. It's preferable for a person to be sat facing the direction of prayer when reciting the Quran. To continue, the next etiquette that's mentioned about when reading the Quran, التعوذ والبسملة. التعوذ والبسملة. It is an etiquette when beginning to read the Quran, and يتعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. That you always begin by reading أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I take refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed Satan. And this etiquette comes explicitly stated in the Quran. فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فإذا قرأت القرآن, when you recite the Quran, فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Take refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed devil. And according to most, to take refuge from the accursed devil is the common way that you say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. But some hold the view, عملا بلفظ القرآن, or عملا بنص القرآن, in accordance with the wording of the Quran, أستعيذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Because the word in the Quran, فاستعيذ, أستعيذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, which essentially means the same, but some say it's more in line with the wording in the Quran that you say, أستعيذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I take refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the accursed devil. So that's an instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْأَمْرُ الْإِسْتِحْبَابِ. And it's an instruction to encourage the believer before entering into the great fort of the Quran, the great protective fort of the Quran, take refuge from the one who's driven out of the fort of God Almighty, and the one whose sole purpose in existence is to drive believers out of the protective fort of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The protection for the believer from himself and from the whisperings of Satan, and from all of the worst, from all of those worst qualities that mislead a person, is to be in worship of God. And the Quran is amongst the greatest of those protective forts. So when you say A'udhu Billah, I take refuge. A'udhu Billah means At-Tahassun Bihisnillah. I enter into the fort of God Almighty, the fort of protection from the enemy, whose sole purpose is to drive me out from that protection from God Almighty. Ash-Shaytan al-Rajim. Al-Rajim means al-Marjum al-Matrud, the one who is driven out of the mercy of his Lord. So the importance, say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan Rajim before you start reading Quran, so that you continue to read the Quran. And when you open the Quran, you start reading it, and straight away you start getting thoughts about doing something else or stopping reading the Quran. Part of that is Shaitan talking to you. Part of that is the devil talking to you, trying to pull you out. So by saying A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan Rajim, you protect yourself. And it is a good habit that when you're reading the Quran, you say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan Rajim, and then as you read the Quran, if anything disturbs you, stops you from reading the Quran, then say it again, to say it again. So if you're reading the Quran and then you happen to talk to somebody for a brief moment, when you go back, it's almost that when you talk to that person, it's almost like it stopped you. That's finished that reading, and when you come back, it's not as though you are starting again. You are starting again. If you spoke to somebody and you come back, because that finished your reading of the Quran. So whenever you're disturbed by something that stops you from reading the Quran, when you come back to it, again you read A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. And then the second thing that you read when you begin reading the Quran, and when you begin every passage of the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bring the blessings of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the divine name of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the two divine names of mercy. Ar-Rahman, the mercy that covers all of creation. Ar-Rahim, the mercy that's exclusive to the believers on the Day of Judgment. So as you engage into the great act of reciting the Quran, call upon the divine name, call upon the divine attributes of mercy to bring mercy into the act that you're doing. So A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then read. And when you come to every surah of the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is read before every surah of the Quran as a separation between the surahs. When our mother, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Salama radiyallahu anha, when our mother, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Salama radiyallahu anha, was asked, سئلت عن قراءة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Salama radiyallahu anha was asked, how did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam read the Quran? سئلت عن قراءة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقالت كان يقطع قراءته آية آية. كان يقطع قراءته آية آية. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. She said he would separate his reading verse by verse. آية آية. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. انتهى. الحمد لله رب العالمين. انتهى. الرحمن الرحيم. Stop. مالك يوم الدين. Stop. The shahid here, the point here, is that when she describes the reading the Prophet, she describes that he began the Fatiha with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's the shahid here. The shahid here, the point here is not that he would stop on every verse, because that's a point of difference amongst the Imams of Quran. Amongst A'immat al-Quran, the Imams of Quran, there's a difference of opinion. Is it actually sunnah to stop at every ayah? Hamza ibn Habib al-Zayyat, one of the great Imams of the Quran, he said the sunnah is not to stop at any ayah of the Quran. He said it's qira'ah wahida. He said the sunnah is just to keep on reading and reading and reading without stopping. That's the view of one of the great Imams of the Quran, Hamza ibn Habib al-Zayyat. The qira'ah that's sha'i'a fil ummah, the common reading of the Quran in the ummah, which is qira'ah of Hafs and Asim. On the view of Asim, likewise, it's not stopping at the end of each ayah. He said, Mura'at al-Ma'ani. He said, you join the verses and stop where the meanings comes to an end. You consider the meanings. And it's an important thing that when you're reading the Quran, you don't stop randomly. You stop bearing in mind the meanings. Like Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions that it's not adab that you stop at the end of the juz, at the end of a page. He said, consider the meaning. Consider the meaning. So, for example, when you read Surah Yasin, if you're reading and you come to the end of juz 22, according to some of the masahif, the last verse would be اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. And that's the end of juz 22. If you close the mushaf there, you're halfway through a conversation. وَمَا لِيَ لَا أَعْبُدُ الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي. That's Habib al-Najjar. Habib al-Najjar. That's a conversation that he's having with the people. You've cut the conversation. You're halfway through a conversation. It's not when you finish juz when you finish juz 12 and you move to juz 13. Juz 13. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. That's the word Zulaykha. That's a continuation of the previous verse. So when you're reading, it's important that you consider when you're stopping and starting the meanings that you're reading. And that's the view of Asim, the Imam, the Qira'ah of his recital of the Quran, which is a dominant recital in the Ummah at this time. I forget, it's Ibn Amr or Abu Amr, I forget which one of the two, Ibn Abu Ibn Amr or Abu Amr. One of the two of them say that the sunnah is that you stop at the end of each ayah. Well, then on this point, then why did say the Hafsa of Salama relief from the Prophet that he would stop at each ayah? He said the Prophet stopped at each ayah for us to know what the ayah was. We have no way of knowing when the verse comes to an end except by the Prophet stopping there. When the Prophet stop at Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, you know that's ayah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, ayah. How did the Sahaba know when an ayah finished, a new ayah came? So because the stopping of the Prophet. So that's the main reason why the Prophet يقطع قراءته آية آية. The main reason why the Prophet stopped with each ayah is for them to know what was an ayah. Without it, there's no other way of knowing what an ayah was. But the main thing wasn't that. The main thing, the Prophet began with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The only surah in the Quran that does not begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Surah At-Tawbah, Surah Al-Bara'ah, 9th surah in the Quran. Surah number 8, Surah number 9 in the Quran, Surah Al-Bara'ah, Surah At-Tawbah, does not begin with Bismillah, and it wasn't revealed with Bismillah. So when Jibreel alayhi salam recited surahs to the Prophet, he would begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. But when he came to Surah Bara'ah, he did not read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bara'atun min Allah. He did not read it. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhum, he asked Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, why is there no Bismillah with Surah Al-Bara'ah? Why is there no Bismillah? And Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu gave the reason. He said, لِأَنَّهَا نَزَلَتْ بِالسَّيْفِ وَهِي نَزَلَتْ بِالْأَمَانِ. So because that surah was revealed with the sword. It's a surah about jihad, wage war against the kuffar and the munafiqeen. It's all about waging war against the unbelievers, the pagans, the idol worshippers, and the hypocrites. Pretty much from the beginning of the surah until the last two verses, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ. That changes the tone. The last two verses change the tone completely of that surah, where you have over 110 verses. From verse 1 up until the last two verses, it's all about waging war. It's all about waging war against the unbelievers and exposing the hypocrites. So Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, نزلت بالسيف. It was revealed with the sword. It's all about war. وهي نزلت بالأمان. هي البسملة, the Bismillah. He said it came with security and safety. It's Ar-Rahman, it's Ar-Rahim. You don't instruct the believers to wage war and then say Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. You don't say Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim after telling the believers. You don't call yourself the merciful one on enjoining people to go to war. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala missed out or dropped the Bismillah at the beginning of Surah At-Tawbah because it's not befitting Mawdu' Surah. It's not befitting the subject matter of the Surah. But an interesting point. Bara'atun min Allah wa Rasul. Surah At-Tawbah is all about war and exposure of the hypocrites. Yet it ends with لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Describing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a prophet, a messenger from amongst your own selves. Harisun alaykum, is concerned about you, he's merciful and compassionate to the believers. Now again, just as Bismillah at the beginning is at odds with the nature of the surah, likewise لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ completely goes against Surah Tawbah. But it's as though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a message. When the Prophet said, when he described himself on occasion, said, Ana Muhammad, Ana Ahmad, Ana al-Hashir, Ana al-Muqaffir. And he's talking about him to describe himself. In one narration he says, Ana Nabiyyu Rahma, Ana Nabiyyu al-Malahim. I am the prophet of mercy, I am the prophet of wars. I'm the Prophet of mercy, I'm the Prophet of wars. And Nabi al-Malahim, so no Prophet had to fight more than the Prophet. No Prophet was opposed more than the Prophet. No Prophet was opposed more, therefore he had to fight more than anybody else. Hence he is Nabi al-Malahim. But his أصل طبيعة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسلناك وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. The essential nature of the Prophet is not warlike. He only fought because he was opposed. He was not warlike in nature. And in the midst of wars, in all of those wars that he fought against them, only one person that he killed. There's only one person that he killed. And even though he's at the front line of the war, he's at the front line of the battle, there's only one person that he kills. So his nature is not Nabi al-Malahim, it's Nabi al-Rahmah. So the surah that speaks about war against the unbelievers tells you, بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ, that his nature with the believers is not that. That's not his nature with the believers. His nature with the believers is that he's Nabi al-Rahmah, that he's the Prophet of mercy. So Surah At-Tawbah does not begin with the Basmala, and according to some of the Imams, it's actually makruh. According to some of the Imams, it's actually considered dislike to read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim bara'atun min Allah wa Rasul. According to some of the Imams, it's actually discouraged from reading. Some of them say it's preferable not to, and that's more the view of the Hanafi ulama. They say it's preferable not to, but it's not blameworthy if you did. It's better not to, but it's not blameworthy if you did. But some of them consider it blameworthy to read Bismillah at the beginning of Surah At-Tawbah. So the etiquette, when you begin, ta'awudh, and when you begin, basmala. The ta'awudh, a'udhu billah, is at the beginning of reading. The bismillah is at the beginning of reading and the beginning of surah, other than chapter 9 of the Quran, where it doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in. A further etiquette, وَإِذَا تَثَاءَبَ أَثْنَاءَ الْقِرَاءَةِ فَيَنْبَغِي لَهُ أَنْ يُمْسِكَ عَنِ الْقِرَاءَةِ. Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin, rahimahullah ta'ala, then says, a further etiquette, if a person begins to yawn, yawn. If a person begins to yawn while he's reading, he should stop reading. He should stop reading. If a person is about to yawn as he's reading the Quran, he should stop reading. He should stop reading. In prayer, you should try and suppress a yawn. In prayer, it's considered severely disliked. It's almost sinful for a person to yawn whilst praying. That displays a laziness. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. الصِّفَةُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ, a description of the hypocrites. When they stand to pray, they stand lazy. قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسِ, showing to people that they pray. وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا, but they hardly mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Laziness with worship is a description of the hypocrites. And yawning whilst even though a person might genuinely be tired, it's not a befitting appearance to have standing in front of the Lord, reciting the words of the Lord. So if you're in prayer, it says suppress your yawn, bite your lip, cover it with the back of your left hand. Cover it with the back of your left hand. If you're reading Quran and you're not praying, stop reading. If you have to yawn, but stop reading. Stop reading. Don't read as you're yawning. Mujahid from the Tabi'een, he said, إِذَا تَثَاءَبْتَ وَأَنْتَ تَقْرَأُ الْقُرْآنَ فَأَمْسِكْ عَنِ الْقِرَاءَةِ حَتَّى يَذْهَبَ تَثَاؤُبُكَ. Mujahid, one of the students, the companion students of Sayyidah Aisha, he said, if you're yawning as you're reading the Quran, stop reading the Quran. Stop reading the Quran. Ta'zeeman, out of honor and respect for the Quran, stop reading the Quran until your yawn goes. حَتَّى يَذْهَبَ تَثَاؤُبُكَ. And the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, إِذَا تَثَاءَبَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَضَعْ يَدَهُ عَلَى فِيهِ أي فمه فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَدْخُلُ مَعَ التَّثَاؤُبِ. This hadith is general. It's not specific about prayer or Quran. It's general. The Prophet said, when one of you yawns, he should place his hand on his mouth. And the sunnah, they said, is the back of the left hand. The back of his left hand on his mouth. فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَدْخُلْ مَعَ التَّثَاؤُبِ, because the shaitan enters with that yawn. The shaitan enters, the shaitan affects you with that yawn. That's general. Generally, when you're about to yawn, cover the back of the left hand. Particularly in prayer, and particularly when you're reading the Quran. Particularly in prayer, particularly when you're reading the Quran, فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَدْخُلُ مَعَ التَّثَاءُ, because the shaitan affects you. Truly the shaitan enters with that yawn. And because the shaitan is the one who provokes that yawn, incites that yawn out of you, it makes you lose control of yourself. Because that's coming from shaitan. That's the reason why the Prophet said, مَا تَثَاءَبَ نَبِيٌّ قَطْ. مَا تَثَاءَبَ نَبِيٌّ قَطْ. The Prophet said, no prophet ever yawned. No prophet ever yawned. Why? الشيطان يدخل مع التثاؤب. Because shaitan is the one who affects that person when he's yawning. So that's the etiquette. Begin with the A'udhu Billah. Say the Bismillah, and if you're yawning, just stop reading and then come back to it once you've stopped yawning. Then moving on to the next etiquette, and perhaps the greatest, amongst the greatest of the etiquettes of the Quran, التدبر عند القراءة. Reflection when reading. This is perhaps the most important of the etiquette with the Quran. Reflect when you read. اقرأ القرآن متدبرا متفهما لما تقرأ. Think about what you're reading. Try and understand what you're reading. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته وليتذكر أولو الألباب. كتاب أنزلناه إليك مبارك ليدبروا آياته. A book, أي هذا كتاب أنزلنا أي هذا كتاب أنزلنا. A book we have revealed to you, which is blessed, مبارك ليدبروا آياته, for them to reflect over its verses. And here just to explore a principle of Quran with this ayah. You have what's termed in al-balagha, in the language of the Quran, al-iltifat. Al-iltifat. Al-iltifat is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the mode of address, changes who he's speaking to. Al-iltifat is a change in the mode of address in the verse. Most prominent Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. All of that is anil ghayb. All he's talking about third person, he's talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's talking about, but then iltifat, Iyyaka na'bud. Then it goes to you. Right? Now we're speaking directly. We're speaking about Allah and then we're speaking to Allah. That's a change in the mode of address. That's known as iltifat. And it's a common tool that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the Quran. Very common tool that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses in the Quran, switching the mode of address. Third person to the second person. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah. And then you say, Iyyaka na'bud. Now you're talking directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done something similar here. كتاب أنزلناه إليك أيها النبي. A book that we reveal to you, ليدبروا, for them to reflect over its verses. There's a change in the mode of address. It's been revealed to you. You have complete understanding. The Prophet's understanding is complete. Does the Prophet reflect over the Quran? Absolutely he does. But he's the one who's jami' li ma'ani al-Quran. He has within him all the meanings of the Quran. He is the Quran. He is the Quran. So although he reflects over the Quran, he is the Quran. ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانًا. Everything in the Quran is explained by Allah subhanahu to the Prophet. As for you and I and everybody else, لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent it, revealed it to you, Muhammad, for them to reflect upon the meanings of the Quran. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has pushed us, He sold us. It's revealed to you, Muhammad. It's a blessed book for them, all of them, to reflect over the meanings of the verses of the Quran. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gave the warning that we mentioned repeatedly. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not reflect over the Quran, or are there locks on their hearts? Based upon that, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu arda, he said, لا خير في قراءة لا تدبر فيها. لا خير في قراءة لا تدبر فيها. There is no good in a reading in which there's no reflection. لا خير في قراءة لا تدبر فيها. If you want to remove yourself from this warning of Sayyidina Ali, يعني عدم الخيرية, but there's no good. Because we're reading all the time the Quran, but we don't reflect. As we said all the time, reflect whose words it is. Even though you may not be reflecting over the words of the Quran, at least reflect who it came from, whose words it is, who's revealed to, and how it's reached you, that you're able to read it, even though you're not really that worthy to read the word of God. So reflect over the journey of the Quran to you. لا خير في قراءة لا تدبر فيها. There is no good in a reading in which there's no reflection. Hasan al-Basri, the great Imam of the Tabi'een. Al-Hasan al-Basri, the great Imam of the Tabi'een, he said, إن من كان قبلكم رأوا أن هذا القرآن رسائل إليهم من ربهم فكانوا يتدبرونها بالليل وينفذونها في النهار. Al-Hasan al-Basri, speaking to the second generation, the students and the companions, he said, truly those who came before you, Sahaba, truly those who came before you, i.e. the Sahaba, they used to believe that the Quran was letters to them from their Lord. 114 رسائل من الرب. They used to believe رأوا أن هذا القرآن رسائل ربي من ربي إليهم من ربهم. They used to believe that this Quran was letters to them from their Lord. When you receive a letter, it's not just reading. What's the message? What's the message in the letter? So they received 114 letters from their Lord. فَكَانُوا يَتَدَبَّرُونَهَا بِاللَّيْلِ وَيُنَفِّذُونَهَا فِي النَّهَارِ. So they would reflect over them during the night and they would live by them during the day. They would reflect over them during the night and they would carry them out, carry out the instructions in those letters during the daytime. Imam al-Suyuti, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his great work on the Quran, he has one of the greatest works on the Quran, Al-Itqan. Al-Itqan, one of the greatest works on the Quran. He speaks about what does it mean to reflect over the Quran. So the way that you reflect, أن يشغل قلبه بالتفكر في معنى ما يتلفظ به. That person, as you're reading the Quran, think about the words that you're reading, the meanings of the words that you're reading. فيعرف معنى كل آية. So that he understands the meaning of every verse. Think about the words that you're reading. Think about the meaning so that as you're reading, you're understanding the verses that you're reading. ويتأمل الأوامر والنواهي. Ponder over the orders that come. Ponder over the prohibitions. ويقصد قبول ذلك. Then he says, فإن كان قصر عنه فيما مضى من عمره اعتذر واستغفر. And then Imam al-Suyuti said, if that person has fallen short during his life where he reads the Quran without ever stopping to think, he said, اعتذر واستغفر. He should make his excuses in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, وَإِذَا مَرَّ بِآيَ رَحْمَةٍ. Whenever you're reading the Quran and you pass by a verse that speaks about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, اسْتَبْشَرَ وَسَأَلَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. You should feel happy and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet would actually stop and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A verse about mercy, a verse about forgiveness, a verse about paradise, a verse that brings happiness to the heart of believer. As you're reading, you say, Allahumma arham. Say, oh Allahumma adkhilni al-jannah. Oh Allah, Allahumma aghfirli. That's interacting with the Quran. You read a verse about forgiveness, feel happy, and have good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that despite yourself, He's going to forgive you. And then stop there. I read the ayah, وَإِنِّي لَغَفَّارٌ لِمَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا ثُمَّ اهْتَدَى. You read the ayah, وَإِنِّي لَغَفَّارٌ لِمَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا ثُمَّ اهْتَدَى. Truly, I am always forgiving those who turn back to me, and those who believe and those who do good deed, and then they are guided. وَإِنِّي لَغَفَّارٌ. So when you read that, Allahumma aghfirli, Ya Ghaffar ighfirli. You read the ayah. You read the ayah, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. Allahumma arhamni. My mercy covers everything. Allahumma arhamni. When you read these ayat that speak about mercy, speak about forgiveness, you read the verse, ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون اللهم يا رزاق ارزقني يا رزاق ارزقني. I don't want them to give me any provision. I don't want them to feed me anything. Ya Razaq urzuqni. Oh provider, provide for me. When you read about anything where there's hope and there's mercy, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just a word. And that's how the Prophet would read the Quran. That's how he wouldn't just read it, he would stop and ask at those points. وَإِذَا مَرَّ بِآيَةِ عَذَابٍ أَشْفَقَ وَتَعَوَّذ. When he passes by a verse that speaks about punishment, أشفق إخافة. He's scared, and he says, أعوذ بالله من عذاب جهنم. You read anything about the description of hellfire, أعوذ بالله من عذاب جهنم. I take refuge with Allah subhanahu from the punishment of hellfire. Read that as you read in the Quran. You come across a verse, it could be the small surahs of the Quran, because interestingly, in the last juz of the Quran, most of it's about Day of Judgment, paradise and hellfire. Most of the last juz of the Quran, juz Amma, is about the Day of Judgment, descriptions of paradise and description of hellfire. So you read, for example, كَلَّا لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. Al-Hutama, the crusher, a description of hellfire. أعوذ بك من الحطمة. I take your refuge from al-Hutama. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. So as Allah is talking to you, what's going to make you understand what this crusher is? Description of hellfire. He's talking to you now. So talk back to him. Say, أعوذ بوجهك من الحطمة. I take refuge with your being from the crusher. That's how the Prophet would engage with the Quran. أو آية تنزيه نزه وعظم. آية تنزيه نزه وعظم. A verse that speaks about the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the ayat tasbihat, or hamd, praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you read, قُلِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ. So you say Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to you, say Alhamdulillah. وَقُلِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ. سَيُرِيكُمْ آيَاتِهِ. So you say Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَبِّحْ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. You just carry on reading. Why not stop there? Say Subhan Rabbil A'la. Subhan Rabbil A'la. Because He's actually ordered you to say that. Glorify the praise of your Lord, the elevated. Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la. The response, Subhan Rabbil A'la. Subhan Rabbil A'la. Just to add a legal point onto that. A legal point. The method of Imam Shafi'i says that can be done in any prayer. Whereas the method of Abu Hanifa says, the Prophet engaged with the Quran in that manner in Sunnah and Nafil prayer. We have no report from the Prophet that he did that within the Fard prayer. So the Fard prayer, yaqra, kal-qira'ah. But in the Sunnah and the Nafil, the Prophet would stop at ayat and he would engage with the verses. So that's, if amalan bil ahadith, amalan bi sunnatin Nabi in line with the practice of the Prophet, this is more in line, or this is more to be done within the Sunnah and the Nafil prayers. Or dua, tadarru'a wa talab. Or Imam Suyuti says, when you come across a verse that's a dua, humble yourself in front of the Lord and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. You keep on repeating it. Humble yourself in front of the Lord and keep on asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you come across that. All of that description that Imam Suyuti rahimahullah ta'ala just mentioned, which is the essence, this is Ayn al-Tadabbur. Ayn al-Tadabbur is the essence of reflection, which is engaging with Allah subhanahu in the Quran. That's exactly how it was described that the Prophet would do. Sayyidina Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said, I prayed with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one night, and in one narration it mentions it was a night of Ramadan. فَافْتَتَحَ الْبَقَرَةِ. So he started reading Baqarah and read the whole of it. ثُمَّ النِّسَاء. Then he read Surah An-Nisa, the whole of it. Then Ali Imran, the whole of it. مترسلا, slowly. And in one, that's all in one rak'ah. Al-Baqarah, An-Nisa, Ali Imran mutarassilan, not reading fast, reading slowly. And then the shahid here, then the point. وإذا مر بآية فيها تسبيح سبح. Whenever he passed by a verse that spoke about the glorification of Allah subhanahu, the Prophet would stop and say Subhanallah. وإذا مر بسؤال سأل, سؤال دعاء. When he would pass by a dua, he would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وإذا مر بتعوذ تعوذ. When he passed by a point of taking refuge, i.e. a description of punishment, ta'awud, he would ask refuge from Allah, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that was the sunnah of the Prophet when he'd pray. That hadith also confirms the legal point, which is that in the fard that you maintain the order of the Quran, that you read according to the order of the Quran, but in sunnah and nafil you're not required to. This is a dalil for it. This is a dalil for it. The Prophet read Baqarah, then Nisa, then Ali Imran. He changed the order around. Baqarah, Ali Imran, Nisa, but the Prophet didn't read in that order. He read Baqarah and then in Nisa and then Ali Imran. Sayyidina Auf ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, he said, قمت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ليلة فقام فقرأ سورة البقرة. He said, I stood with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم one night. فقام فقرأ سورة البقرة. The Prophet stood and read سورة البقرة. لا يمر بآية رحمة إلا وقف وسأل ولا يمر بآية عذاب إلا وقف وتعوذ. He would never pass by لا يمر بآية رحمة, with a verse of mercy, إلا وقف وسأل, except that he would stop and ask. ولا يمر بآية عذاب إلا وقف وتعوذ. And he would never pass by a verse of punishment except that he would stop and ask protection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from them. So that's the normal way that the Prophet would pray, particularly his night prayer. This is all a description of the night prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, a further point to add here, and this is off the subject, but it's highlighted in these two hadiths. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not pray tahajjud in jama'ah. He did not pray tahajjud in jama'ah. He prayed alone. But in both of these, you have a sahabis praying tahajjud with him, or qiyam al-layl praying with him. Based upon this, the madhab of Abu Hanifa is that it's makruh to pray in jama'ah if it's a large jama'ah of 4 or more people praying. It is confirmed that the Prophet prayed it in jama'ah. Here you have 2 narrations. One Sayyidina Hudayfa, one Sayyidina Auf ibn Malik. In other narrations, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, I stood next to the Prophet and prayed with him. You have a fair number of narrations that mention Sahabi stood and prayed tahajjud or qiyam al-layl with the Prophet, but there's no mention of a large jama'ah. There's never mention of the Prophet standing in the masjid and the masjid, a large jama'ah behind the Prophet. So you're praying tahajjud or qiyam al-layl, other prayers, and there's you and one person. That's sunnah. And it should be done biniyat to sunnah. It should be done with the intention of sunnah. But a large jama'ah, there is no sunnah of the Prophet with that. Then Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin rahimahullah ta'ala, he further adds to this by saying, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَضَعْ نَفْسَكَ مَوْضِعَ الْمُخَاطَبِ. This is not tadabbur. Reflection. Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin rahimahullah ta'ala says, when you read the Quran, put yourself as a person that's been spoken to. Mukhatab. Man al-mukhatib? Allah. Man al-mukhatab? Anta. Who's speaking? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who's been spoken to? You. So place yourself in that situation. Even though you're reciting it, it's His words. He's speaking to you through the words that you're reciting. They're His words. He's speaking to you. Al-mukhatib huwa Allah wal-mukhatab anta. The one who's speaking is Allah. The one who's been spoken to is you. So place yourself and see yourself as that. Don't imagine it's actually what's happening. You are being spoken to, even though you're reciting the words. So when you pass بآية الوعد والوعيد والأمر والنهي فانظر في نفسك. مع من؟ مع من أنت تجدها؟ مع المؤتمرين بها أم التاركين لها؟ ومع المنتهين أم مع المخالفين? So when you come across a verse of a promise or a threat or an order or a prohibition, look at yourself. Which categories of these which categories of these are you going to be found in? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about promise for those who fulfill an order, look into yourself. أنت مع المؤتمرين. Have you actually fulfilled that order? So can you have some security in thinking that Allah is going to reward me because He's going to give me what He's just told me through what I'm reading because I've actually done what He's asked? Or are you from the tariqeen? إن الله مع الذين اتقوا والذين هم محسنون. Allah is with those who fear Him and He's with those who do good. هل أنت من المتقين؟ هل أنت من المحسنين? Are you from those who fear the Lord? Are you from those who do good such that you have the ma'iyr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Such that you have Allah subhanahu with you? Or are you from those with tariqeen who read it? Well, they're not with it. They read it but they've turned away from the injunction. مع المنتهين أو مع المخالفين. Are you with those who stopped at the limits that God has put down? Or مخالفين الأوامر? Or have you transgressed? Have you transgressed? You have many ayat to speak about تلك حدود الله فلا تعتدوها. These are the limits that God has put down. Don't transgress the limits. So now look at yourself. There's the limits. Now where am I? Am I on this side or am I on that side? That's your reflection. You're not doing tafsir al-Quran. You're doing tadabbur. You're doing tadabbur مع القرآن. You're trying to find yourself in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِذَا مَرَرْتَ بِالْآيَاتِ الَّتِي فِيهَا صِفَاتُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَأَخْلَاقُهُمْ فَاعْرِضْ نَفْسَكَ عَلَيْهَا هَلْ أَنْتَ مِنْهُمْ فَاحْمَدِ اللَّهَ وَاسْتَزِدْهُ. So when you come across a verse that speaks about the description of the mu'mineen, of the believers, and the akhlaq al-mu'mineen, the description of the believers, perhaps amongst the most comprehensive description of the believers that comes in the Quran, the end of Surah Al-Furqan. The end of Surah Al-Furqan. Read like the last 2 pages of Surah Al-Furqan. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ, the worshippers and the slaves of the merciful one. And then you have so much description that's given about them. Those who walk humbly across the earth. When ignorant people speak to them, they just say peace. They just description after description after description. That's perhaps the most comprehensive description in the Quran about sifat al-mu'mineen wa akhlaq al-mu'mineen, the description and the qualities of the believers. So Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin says, فَعْرَضْ نَفْسَكَ عَلَيْهِ. Put yourself in front of that description. Is that you? هَلْ أَنْتَ مِنْهُمْ. Tonight in Taraweeh, we're going to go on to Surah al-Mu'minun. Surah al-Mu'minun, Surah al-Hajj, and then Surah al-Mu'minun. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. 10 verses that were revealed to the Prophet. And then the Prophet gave bushra, glad tidings at the end. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ. الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسَ. You meet those descriptions that come at the end, bushra. You have the ultimate happy news, which is the ayah says, those are those who will inherit, they will inherit al-Firdaus. You meet the descriptions that come in there, you have a guarantee from Allah of al-Firdaus. So you read those verses. What's the first description? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Not الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. And here you have a change in this verse. You have something different to the rest of the Quran. Throughout the Quran we're told يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. It's always إِقَامَةِ الصَّلَاةَ. It's always إقامة. Where here you have something different. خاشعون. What's إقامة الصلاة? The key is in the word خاشعون. الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. That description where Allah guarantees al-Firdaus, He doesn't say الذين هم مقيمون الصلاة or الذين هم يقيمون الصلاة. No, خاشعون. The key is خاشعون. So that's where now you stop and look at yourself like, أنا من الخاشعين في الصلاة. Am I someone who's got that khushu' in salah? And how do you gain the khushu'? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. those who turn away from futile, pointless behavior. And when people are doing things that are worthless, pointless, have no meaning to it, they won't sit with them. They won't sit with them. هل أنا منهم? Am I from them? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ, those who ensure that they pay their zakah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Allah carries on, going on, description after description after description. At the end, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ. Those are the ones who will inherit al-Firdaus. So you look at that description. If you can now see something of yourself within them, Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin says, فَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ. You read that and say, Alhamdulillah. Read and say, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. وَاسْتَزِدْهُ وَمَزِدْنِي خَيْرًا زِدْنِي خُلُقًا حَمِيدًا. Then ask Allah subhanahu for more of that. For more of that. أَمْ لَسْتَ مِنْهُمْ فَاسْعَ لِذَلِكَ وَتَخَلَّقْ وَاتَّصِفْ بِصِفَاتِهِمْ. But if you read those descriptions and when you look at them, that's not me. That's not me. Don't give up. Don't give up. فَاسْعَ لِذَلِكَ. Work hard. Work hard to try and be that. وَتَخَلَّقْ وَاتَّصِفْ بِصِفَاتِهِمْ. Look at that and look at you. Something missing. I need to be like that. I need to be like that. And then وَإِذَا مَرَرْتَ بِصِفَاتِ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فَاحْذَرْ أَن تَكُونَ مِنْهُمْ وَأَنْتَ لَا تَشْعُرُ. Here we have a real problem. And when you read the description of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, Shaykh Abdullah Sirajuddin says, فَاحْذَرْ, beware that you're not from them without even realizing. One of the key descriptions of munafiqeen describes so many of the believers now. So many of the believers are described. لا يأتون الصلاة إلا وهم كسالى ولا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا. They stand to pray lazy. They have to push themselves to pray, and they hardly do zikr of Allah. They hardly do zikr of Allah. Look at how you come to pray. Look at how you come to pray. You have to force yourself to. And note here, the description of the munafiqeen with the prayer is not that they don't pray. It's not tariq as-salah. It's kusala. They pray. Munafiqeen pray, but they're lazy with the prayer. Mu'mineen and nashiteen. You're energetic. You're happy to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As one of the Sahabi said, they would never come at prayer time. He said, except I was already looking forward to the next one after. I was already looking forward to the next prayer after. No, you've got to force yourself. You've got to struggle to pray. You're ready to pray. You're happy to pray. You want to pray. So when you see that description of munafiqeen, and then لا يذكرون الله إلا قليل, they hardly do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now you have a qawm amongst the Muslims who want you to cut down on your dhikr. There's a group of Muslims telling you shouldn't do too much. Allah subhanahu condemns the hypocrites who speak in that. So the description of the hypocrites, لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا. That's why when Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, when he's asked the question about the Khawarij, the first rebels against the Muslim state, and he's asked about who are they? He was asked first, أهم كفار? قال لا بل هم من الكفر قد فروا. Are they unbelievers? The Khawarij? He said no. He said they fled from kufr. They fled from kufr. We do not call the Khawarij, however extreme are Muslims, you don't call them kafir. You don't. Sayyidina Ali's asked the question. He said they're not unbelievers. They fled from kufr. Ahum munafiqun? Are they hypocrites? What Sayyidina Ali said? He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the hypocrites, لا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا, and he said they're always doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're always doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't be a munafiq if your tongue's always moving dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he asked them, what are they? Then he's asked, what are they? He says, إخواننا الذين بغوا علينا. إخواننا الذين, they're our brothers who wronged us. They're our brothers who wronged us. But Sayyidina Ali uses as his dalil that a people cannot be hypocrites. They're always doing dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's an alama. That's a sign of true iman. And a sign of nifaq, of hypocrisy, is that your tongue doesn't move with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So beware, you read that ayah and then look into yourself. Like, how do I stand to pray? How do I, what am I like with my dhikr? والمنافقون والمنافقات بعضهم من بعض يأمرون بالمنكر وينهون عن المعروف ويقبضون أيديهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the hypocrites. It says, hypocrite men and women, they're one and the same. بعضهم من بعض, they're from each other. يأمرون بالمنكر. They order each other to do wrong. وينهون عن المعروف. And they stop people doing good. ويقبضون أيديهم. And they fight with their fists. They don't give. They're not people who give. نسوا الله فنسيهم. They turned away from Allah, so Allah's turned away from them. That's munafiqeen. So you look at that and then look into yourself. فاحذر أن تكون منهم وأنت لا تشعر. Beware of being such type of people without even realizing. The Shaykh then carries on, and inshallah we'll continue tomorrow, because this is the essence of tadabbur ma'al Quran. Engage with the Quran. Stop with the Quran. Look and see yourself and find yourself within the Quran. جعلنا الله وإياكم من أهل القرآن. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Are there any questions? Anybody have any questions?
So, Shaykh, you know when you said the Prophet read ayah by ayah, now we have like the circular marking that tells us like where an ayah ends.
Yeah.
At the time of the Prophet recorded, do we know how they marked their verses at the end of the verse?
Right, and
so in transmission to you that this is the end of the ayah, but they have something in form of markings.
The Sahaba, they knew from what they heard of the reading of the Prophet. But bear in mind, first in the time of the Prophet, they were not reliant on the written copy. The written copy was an aid. It was all from hifz. The written copy only became significant as generations passed on. But the Sahaba themselves, they knew the stopping points from the Prophet. But what's also worth noting on there, the Masahif Uthmaniyya, all of them have different number of ayats. All of the Mushafs, all of the Masahif Uthmaniyya have different number of ayats. Although, just to be clear, because we mentioned this in a class this year, somebody misunderstood that point. It didn't mean that there was an ayah missing in some ayah, extra ayah in others. It means that the stopping points were different. So they had different number of ayats in that the stopping points were different. And that's because of the difference of what the Sahaba heard from the Prophet. So when you say like the markers, that's not what they're relying on. They're relying on what they heard from the Prophet. But then the written form comes in the time to say Uthman.
Shaykh, when we have our set portions of Quran to recite, and if we start reflecting, maybe we might not have enough time to cover.
Imam al-Ghazali in his Ihya, he mentioned his Imam from the Salihin, 30 years and he hadn't finished his Quran. 30 years and he still hadn't finished the Quran. So what you have there is you have parallel readings of the Quran. So there's a reading just for the ajr of reading, but then there's also reading for reflection. That's the one who's taken 30 years and he still hasn't finished reading the Quran. So it's a parallel reading. So you should read just for the sake of reading, but then at the same time you should have a separate reading where you stop and reflecting. And that reading, the reading with reflection is more a nighttime reading, because what we find from like Imam al-Nawawi in Kitab al-Adhkar, he mentioned that the tahajjud of the Prophet was longer than his Salat al-Duha. So the portion of reading in night is perhaps more, but also more reflection during the night time. Although in Ramadan that changes. In Ramadan, it's all about qira'ah. It's all about qira'ah. In Ramadan, it's all about just reading as much as you can inside the Ramadan.
Yes. Two questions. Did you say it's sunnah to use a siwak before reading the Quran?
Sunnah mustahab recommended. Yeah.
And also, I just wanted to ask, you know the Tarawih prayer? We understand that it's not, we don't pray Sunnah prayers in Jama'ah unless it's less than 4 people.
Yeah.
But how do we understand the Tarawih?
Because the Prophet prayed in Jama'ah. And Sayyidina Umar reinstituted in Jama'ah. The principle is that any prayer for which all Sunnah and Nafil prayed individually or a small Jama'ah, unless there's a confirmed Sunnah of it being prayed in a large Jama'ah. And the only two where it's confirmed is Tarawih and the solar eclipse prayer. They're the only two where it's confirmed the Prophet prayed in large Jama'ah. So the Sunnah there is to pray in Jama'ah a long time. Any other question? Right, okay. How's the cooking going, mate?
Sorry?
How's the cooking going?
That's not the opposite is water from downstairs.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم. وإلى حضرة النبي الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صراط الله